Good evening, welcome to Beyond the Touchline. It is myself, Paul, we have Colin, and we have Ryan here this evening. Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hope you are all well, and we do apologise that we are one day late, but we are family men, and unfortunately my children are sick, so I do apologise for keeping you two guys waiting also.
Never a problem.
But let's get into some Premier League action from the weekend. But the good thing about being a day late, Colin, we can quickly mention some of the Capital One football which is either finished or still ongoing because a lot has gone into penalties this evening.
Absolutely. So we've got two finals going right now. We've got, of course, the Sheffield Wednesday 3, Arsenal 0 game. And just concluded, we've got Hull beats Leicester City 5-4 on penalties.
Wow, okay, there we go, see? We are giving you live updates. Let's go back to the Premier League. Let's talk the football from the weekend. We're going to start by talking about the Aston Villa 1, Swansea 2. Now, this game, Colin, resulted in Tim Sherwood being relieved or leaving, and is obviously now unemployed. What's your thoughts on that for starters, so early in the season?
So if you ask me, I think this was a firing more on the body of work as opposed to one individual result. He's been under some fair amount of pressure for a while on there. I think we talked a little bit about it last week or the week before that, he and Rodgers, going into Rodgers' firing were the two sort of managers under the gun. It was a lackluster performance again by Aston Villa. So not a shock. Hopefully he lands somewhere, but we'll see what happens.
I think it's an issue which frustrates me. The fact that managers are losing their jobs so early on. I mean, someone messaged me after the Newcastle game, which we'll get onto later, saying, should McLaren go? Now, we haven't had the best start. I think that's apparent. But sacking a manager so early on in the season, I think, is just absurd. I mean, surely managers need time to settle, players need time to settle. Sherwood kept Aston Villa in the Premier League last season. They got to the cup final and they have now sacked him 8 games into this season. I think it's an absolute disgrace, and genuinely I hope Aston Villa go down now as a way of saying, well, you shouldn't have sacked him. And especially when, Colin, they are looking at bringing in a manager who has no experience in the Premier League and has very little experience as a manager.
Yeah, it's a tough one, right? I think, Villa certainly feels that their fans are owed more and should be in a better place. They're not there. Do you linger? Do you let it go to just before the January transfer window so a new manager has something to do? I actually think this isn't a terrible time if you're going to pull the trigger. I think Liverpool did it better. That if you're going to pull the trigger, at least give your guy an international break. Probably a bigger issue at Liverpool where you've got more internationals as opposed to Aston Villa where you're probably not packing nearly as many for these kind of cycles right now. So you'd get him in there, get him a shot. I think he'll have whoever the new manager is will have a shot during sort of the November international break, and then kind of be settled and have a better idea what to do going into the January transfer. Just a note, we've got the last 2 breaking scores for the Capital One Cup. So we have Everton, Downs, Norwich City on penalties, 4-3 on penalties. And in the misery continues for Mourinho bucket, Stoke City have bounced Chelsea from the Capital One Cup, 5-4 on penalties from the Britannia Stadium.
Well, I think that shows that Chelsea can't do it on a cold, wet night in Stoke, Ryan.
Exactly. The misery just continues, but it's good for me because keeps them down there and out of the way. Doesn't look like they're going to retain their title this year.
Oh yeah, Mr.
They're not going to win the League Cup, that's for sure.
I was just going back to the Aston Villa Swansea game, Colin. Interesting situation where you have 2 brothers coming up against each other, Andre and Jordan Ayew, both from Ghana, both played in France last year, came up against each other when Lorient, I think it is, played Marseille, and now when Aston Villa played Swansea. Definitely, I think it's fantastic. I think families must be proud when 2 brothers are making it in the Premier League, when you've got like Gary Neville and Philip Neville as another example there. So that is definitely nice to see. I mean, what's your thoughts on Swansea? They've obviously struggled since since the season started. They started quite well, drawn with Chelsea, they beat Man United if my memory is correct, and then they haven't picked up victories, but they've never looked like a bad side.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. I thought they came out of the gate much faster, and they looked really good at the beginning of the season. I think we talked a little bit about it after I think it was after I don't know, 4 or 5 games in. They were really looking quite strong. I know, and at least in the U.S. coverage over the weekend, they were talking a lot about this being sort of the battle of under pressure managers. To me, if I'm Swansea, I don't think Gary Monk's an under pressure manager. He's clearly done well. He's taken a side that has bounced around in the lower half of the table and got them comfortably sort of into the upper half of the table. I think I would expect Swansea to be in there challenging for a Europa League spot. I don't think they're going to be a Champions League contender. They're certainly not top 4 to me, but I could see them battling for a Europa spot. I could see them being an FA Cup type challenging team on there. So I think that rumors of their demise are greatly exaggerated. So I think hopefully they can use this to kind of catapult back into some good results.
Definitely. Just to end that game, we'll go to the statman Ryan, who has a fantastic stat about Bafétimbi Gomez.
So Bafétimbi Gomez has created 4 chances against Aston Villa, which no forward has managed ever in the Premier League. So.
Fantastic.
Have I remembered that correctly? I wasn't reading that.
You have, and I love the fact that every single week, people who've listened to us for a while on YouTube, etc., Ryan adds stats to some notes that we have each week, and I've never heard someone add a note and being excited about adding a note. Then when I've asked him to read the note out, he sounds so depressed about it. Next time, Ryan, I want passion. Otherwise, I'll get Colin to read it.
You took me by surprise. I was working my magic on Facebook, and then you started to announce things.
It's not like we're live doing a show. Right, the next game, Colin. Leicester City 1, Crystal Palace 0. Jamie Vardy, surely, at this rate, should be England's frontline striker.
I think I saw something interesting after the game in U.S. coverage that apparently Real Madrid is now scouting Jamie Vardy. To me, for a guy who was playing non-league ball not that long ago, and to be fair, I remember his name bouncing around in the lower ends of Football Manager, to be up there not only playing in the Premier League, playing with a side that's clearly performing fantastically, and to be leading the Golden Boot race against the likes of Aguero and some of the other big end goal scorers that are hanging out, and some of the absolute freakish goal scoring we've seen in the league. But I'm just thrilled to watch him. I think he's made a very good case to Roy Hodgson to get him into the England squad. At least he ought to be at least given a pretty solid look based on the performance he's having. He's clearly thriving under Ranieri, and I look forward to seeing more out of him.
He has looked good when he's played for England off the flank. He's come on and played. He's looked fairly well. I mean, Ryan's put there about the fact that Vardy's goal means he's joined a select group, including Henry, Shearer, Van Nistelrooy, to have scored 7 straight Premier League games. I think Van Nistelrooy has an 8 and a 10 record as well. He scored 14 in his last 20 Premier League games. I think that's just unbelievable.
It's a fantastic record.
Haven't managed only 1 in the previous 24 before that, Colin.
No, it's a fantastic record.
I think, Ryan, you've put an interesting stat about Danny Drinkwater there.
Yeah, 88 touches in the game. More passion here. No Leicester player has had that many touches in a game in the Premier League this season. And the 88 touches he had, he seemed to do a lot with it. He's quite a pivotal player for Leicester if you watch him over the season. Ex-Man United player, didn't work out there, but he's been really good for Leicester so far this season.
Completely agree, Ryan. I think he's one of them players who comes in and he does the job. And as you say, 88 touches, it basically means he's making himself available all the time. He's collecting the ball, then distributing it, which is nice. Fair play to him. We'll go on to the next game, which was Norwich 0, West Brom 1. West Brom are starting to pull themselves together, Colin.
Yeah, I think this was interesting for two reasons to me. I think West Brom are this was very much Tony Pulis ball. If you ask, this was a grinding result. Um, yeah, this is very stylistic of what I expect from a team he's managing. Good news from Norwich City. I think this is one of the few times they have let in less than two goals in a game, and it's certainly better than last week's 6. So there was something clearly improved for them.
Well, you say good news for them, but in the next 4 games they come up against Man City, Chelsea, along with the trip to Arsenal. So
they can't all be good weeks.
I mean, I know it's going to struggle, Colin. I mean, I don't think they've looked bad. They definitely didn't look bad against us and didn't deserve the 6-2. I mean, I can't see them going down, but obviously if they don't start picking up results against games like this, they should be winning.
I'm concerned. So the defense has clearly been weak. I think they're going to be in the thick of the relegation fight. Do they deserve to go down? It's hard to tell. I think given Aston Villa and Sunderland's form, you can make a good case that says, maybe they're better than those guys. I think the 3rd relegation spot, there's an argument to be made in that area.
Very true. I think I don't know myself, Ryan, but moving over to the West Brom side of things, West Brom have kept a league-high 16 clean sheets since January the 10th when Pulis came in. So that's in 10 months, just over 10 months. They've kept 16 clean sheets. I think that's unbelievable.
It's a phenomenal record, even for a team like West Brom, which you don't expect clean sheets because they're one of these teams that bounce up and down. They'll have good patches, they'll have bad patches. But it shows that Tony Pulis has come in, set his style that he wants, and it's working for them now.
Fair play to Tony Pulis for that. The next game was Stoke 0, Watford 2. Now, first off, we have to say Troy Deeney's got his first Premier League goal. Does it make him a Premier League striker? No, but he looked like a better player that game. And the composure, Ryan, I think you've got to say on the finish, considering how he's done so far this season in terms of goal scoring, I think was definitely worth a mention.
Yeah, definitely. He's not been on the best of form, but this game he was looking a lot better in front of goal. Grabbing a goal finally after a very long wait. I'm sure any Watford supporters would agree it's been a long time coming since he's needed to get a goal. He's got a goal in this game, and hopefully then he'll go on from there. Massive confidence boost after getting a goal. Maybe we'll see more goals from him in future games.
Watford looked fantastic. They looked solid. They kind of made Shaqiri look like a poor player, Ryan. Obviously cancelling him out most of the time, which obviously is fair play to them. They then scored a second goal as well. Abdi getting that. I think Watford all round deserved the victory. Yes, Paul.
Yeah,
what about yourself, Colin?
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think Watford in this one. I think Stoke looked pretty amateur in a lot of it, and Watford was just a lot more solid. I think it's nice to see Deeney on the score sheet. I agree with you. He's a lot of goals away from being labeled as a Premier League striker. But credit to him. He's got a goal. He's off the he's now off the snide of having nil. Now it's build. So I'd like to see him get the confidence. I think a huge part of it is, as we all know, is the confidence of 1 helps build the confidence for 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'd like to see it. I think Watford's defense, as you mentioned, took some fairly high-profile characters like Shaqiri, who's clearly a skillful guy, especially with crossing and that, and made him look pretty average at best. So, fair play to them. Solid game.
I think we'll move on to the West Ham 2, Chelsea 1. Now, this game has a few talking points. The fact that Jose Mourinho got sent off at half-time. One of the coaches tried to encroach on the pitch, Colin, in the first half, getting sent off. He got sent off to the stands for that. Chelsea, all in all, again, this is an issue. As the game was getting played, I commented about this a couple of times. Big clubs seem to think they have the right to argue with the officials. And it doesn't matter what people say, it is a fact. The big clubs, the big players, think they have a right to argue with the officials. There are certain clubs which don't do it. There's certain clubs which, when the decisions go against them, they will just turn and walk away because the managers told them you do not argue with the officials. Chelsea are definitely not one of them. The attitude of the likes of Fabregas was shocking. I mean, genuinely, I think he should have been sent off. I mean, it's so disrespectful the way they were talking to the officials. It shouldn't be allowed, Colin.
Yeah, I think you and I were bouncing some messages when we were watching it when Matic got the second card. To me, I thought was an absolutely unconscionable display from the Chelsea players. That the referee didn't have a clear. You could tell he didn't have a totally clear view of what was going on, and he went to consult with his assistant as to what the assistant saw to make what was clearly going to be an impactful call. He recognized the situation. He went and did what I thought was an absolutely prudent move. You didn't have all the information. Go to the guy who had the other perspective. Get the information. As soon as he walked over to the assistant and talked to the assistant, he was surrounded in a sea of blue. To me, I think, it's a huge issue that you can't have these guys, intimidating and surrounding and pressuring the officials. The game is hard enough to call as it is. It's fast, it's complicated, and all they're doing is making it harder. So I thought it was a good double yellow. I thought it was an absolutely stupid move by Matic, who was there. He knew what he was doing. It was boneheaded. He earned the card. I agree. There should have been more bookings at the very least, if not sending offs, for some of the behavior towards it. I was glad to see West Ham win. You and I were talking about it when Chelsea equalized to 1-1. I said, West Ham has to win this one. I think that Mourinho needs to. If you're going to look back at the trail of games that make up the body of performance of sort of the collapse this season, this needed to be in that case. I thought it was just a terrible performance all around, and clearly the squad Chelsea they fell apart. They were out of control. Their emotions were driving them, and it was nice to see a win. A win for West Ham. On the flip side, I think we shouldn't do anything to discredit West Ham's win. They played very well. They put their nose to the grindstone. They stayed very disciplined, very organized, took advantage of their chances, and made it count. They're up. I think they're still sitting in fourth, which to me is playing out of their minds. They did it last year. I'd like to see it continue on. I'm not so sure they're going to have the stamina to keep the train rolling through December and January, but I'd like to see them make a deeper run on this one. So fair play to them. It was definitely a good performance from West Ham, and an absolutely woeful and an embarrassing performance for Chelsea.
Well, I think you've said everything there, Colin. What we'll do is we'll go to Ryan, Mr. Statman. He's got a couple of interesting stats about the starts and some goals conceded, etc. So Ryan, do you want to just finish off this game?
Yeah, so it's West Ham's best start to the Premier League season after 10 games. They're now on 20 points. And I think anyone could probably guess this one. It's Chelsea's worst start to the Premier League campaign after 10 games. Only 11 points. That's 1 point. 1.1 average per game if we're going to be rounding up and specific. Mourinho's lost the last 6 games. 6 in the last 12 Premier League games. And before that run, he hadn't lost 6 games in 64 in the English top flight. Chelsea have conceded the first goal in the last 5 matches in the Premier League. West Ham have now won 3 Premier League London derbies so far this season. They've beaten Crystal Palace and Arsenal, so a few more to go. They've only won that amount in the whole of 2014-15. And finally, a very interesting stat that I found out, West Ham scored their first goal against Chelsea in 467 minutes.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Statman.
So I got one interesting question for you guys on this game. So I've seen some rumbling and grumbling in some of the U.S. soccer press that, obviously Abramovich is not one to tolerate this and tends to act. So Do you see Mourinho making January or the end of the season? And if not, who do you think is the one who comes in?
I can't. Yes, I do see him making January, only because if they were going to get rid of him, they would have done it by now. And if they were going to replace Mourinho, I'd have no idea. I could almost see them bringing Ancelotti back to steady the ship. But I'm not too sure. What about yourself, Ryan?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they will keep him because of the confidence there. If they sack him again, then just go, yeah, repeat. But then the situation is that they are struggling, and they should be doing a lot better than they actually are, considering the quality of players they got. But if they don't, there's rumours of Pep Guardiola coming to Premier League. Whether I can see him at Chelsea is a completely different story, but not a clue who could come in. There's so many managers out there that could possibly want the job, but not a clue.
I'm going to say it now. Guardiola will be the next Man City manager. Arsenal 2, Everton 1. I don't want to toy on this game too long. Arsenal played quite well. Olivier Giroud and Mesut Ozil with the goals. Ozil has impressed me so much this season. He made a team high 36 passes. Is that it? I'm not joking. With the amount of passes Arsenal make, I genuinely thought players would have done more than that. Quite lazy, Colin.
Yeah, it seems a little low. Yeah, it seems that Arsenal saved the good performance for the league and clearly decided to store up a couple of weeks worth of lousy performances to let Sheffield Wednesday go off on them tonight. But yeah, I was surprised. I was interested to watch this game almost entirely because I wanted to see Arsenal's emotional reaction to the week. Right, they had a huge 3-0 win over Man United. And then clearly the win against Bayern Munich, which by all accounts was completely out of left field, which was if you've watched the game, an absolutely fantastic display of counterattacking football. I was interested to see how they were going to come in off that sort of emotional roller coaster of big game, big result, bigger game, bigger result, to come in and play a team of Everton and sort of not to rain on Everton, but it's clearly they're not in the same league as a Bayern Munich by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, I wanted to see it. I thought they played well, if albeit not flashy. So I'd like to see how they bounce back from the weekend after what is only can be defined as a weird result midweek here in a cup they clearly don't value.
We'll move on. The next game is one which I got mentioned on Twitter. People saying maybe we shouldn't do the show this week because it'll just be me ranting for 45 minutes. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. It's going to be a very calm explanation of this. So it was Sunderland 3, Newcastle 0. Now I'm going to start by saying the red card for Colaccini's been rescinded. Rightly so. We got sent off because basically the referee's a knob. There's no way it was a red card. I mean, if you can't go shoulder to shoulder with people in football these days, what's the point of going on the pitch and playing the stupid sport? I mean, honest to God, we absolutely dominated that game until the red card. Sunderland were one of the worst teams I've seen play. I would rather watch Newcastle play every week and lose than go and watch Sunderland win if they play like that, because they were crap. And I'm not saying it just because I'm a Newcastle fan. They were shocking. If that's a football Sam Allardyce is bringing to the stadium then seriously, just tear up your season ticket and just go and walk your dog, because it was shocking. We dominated them, absolutely destroyed them. We passed them off the park. We were more skillful in midfield. The Sunderland fans booing Colback because obviously he left them to come to us. I mean, how dare he go to his childhood club? Idiots. It's just, it was so frustrating to see us lose. And to lose 3-0. To lose 3-0 to that shower of stuff. It was... I mean, Colin, come on, we were so much better than them, and we ended up losing 3-0. 3-0, man. I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think this is one of those games where the actual scoreline isn't representative of it, and I agree with you. I think the referee's decision destroyed this game. I think it was clearly an awful call, and the FA agreed with it, rescinded the card, but it destroyed the entire game. I think, I'd rather eat the suspension on the card if they'd give us, replay the match from that point on. Newcastle looked fantastic. In that first, it was about 25 minutes or so in there. That they were in. They were passing fluidly. They were enthusiastic. There was energy. There was movement. It was, that the week before clearly kicked the club into a different place. They just seemed engaged and excited, and it was great to see. And now, my fear is going into this week, obviously that was a huge momentum turn. I mean, you could watch the light switch flip off on the club. So I hope they can dust themselves off and kind of go back out and take it, take the enthusiasm that they had going in and kind of keep pushing it forward. But yeah, I agree. I think this wasn't a result that was at all representative of the game.
No, I mean, obviously Twitter lit up afterwards, Facebook lit up, people saying Newcastle fans were overreacting. It was a penalty, it should have been sent off, it should have been this, it should have been that. Football is a contact sport. It was a shoulder-to-shoulder tackle. It happens weekly. It happens every single game. It happens a couple of times a half. I mean, Colaccini didn't do anything overly aggressive. He didn't. If anything, they both bounced into each other. It's not his fault the other guy was a tart and went down. So Robert Madley, I feel sorry for that referee when it comes to Newcastle, because he's going to get some stick, because he was shocking all game long. I mean, Lee Cattermole should have been sent off. I mean, I don't know where Cattermole's head was, but it was definitely close to Robert Madley, let's put it that way. Because that was just... I have no idea where he was looking at times, because there was a point where he pointed to 3 different places to say to Cattermole, right, you fouled in all these places, and then he didn't give me a yellow card, and it's like, hello, card? It's so frustrating. Game ruined by, again, another knobhead referee who doesn't know how to referee a game of football. I mean, and they're going about technology in the game. When these situations happen, it should come into the game, because it just totally ruined it. And we're going to the next game, which was Bournemouth 1, Tottenham 5. And as the... well, it turns out it wasn't at the stadium announcer, it was a Tottenham fan. But as the Tottenham fan on the loudspeaker said, it's men against boys. It was Bournemouth 1, Tottenham 5. Harry Kane scoring a hat-trick for Tottenham. So Ryan, that's Harry Kane hopefully back in the goals?
You would hope so, for both England and Tottenham perspective there. But yeah, back in the goals, a hat-trick in this game. You hope he can go on a run here in their next few games.
I think one thing we definitely have to point out is Eric Dyer, however people want to pronounce it. He played centre-back last season, he played right-back at times. This season he seems to have moved into the DM role, and he's making it his own with 55 of 61 passes completed. Tackling was sound, movement was sound, positioning. He looks like a fantastic player. He obviously developed his game in Portugal, which is going to help the passing game and stuff. They like to play that style in Sporting's academy. So hopefully he's going to develop well, Ryan.
Yeah, definitely. It reminds me of when you look back at how Phil Jones was. Is he a centre-back? Is he a right-back? Is he a midfielder? Dier, he seems that he can fit all those roles to a good standard, but he's still yet to find that set position. But this game, yeah, absolutely fantastic, and looks to have a great future for Tottenham and for England alike, with all this great passing percentage, tackling, all the movement. Hopefully he can go on and just be one of those shining lights.
Let's move on to the next game, and I can see that Ryan does the notes for the week's show just to help with stats and stuff, because somehow we have more notes on the crappiest game of the weekend than anything else. Manchester United 0, Manchester City 0. Now I think I watched it all, but I can't remember if I fell asleep at a point. So Ryan, did you? Bear in mind, I messaged Ryan at one point during this game, and he told me to leave him alone. He was watching the game. Now, honestly, I would have begged for someone to talk to me if I was watching that on my own, because oh my days, what a shocking game, Ryan.
Who said I was on my own? It's just rudeness. You think I live my life alone?
You do.
No,
so,
yeah.
So, what was your thoughts on the game, Ryan?
Yeah, very, very dull. Not a lot happening. This is why you have to read the notes. I've put in there things like Man City spend excess of 100 million. You've got Kevin De Bruyne and Raheem Sterling, which at stages they got past it, but then when they got to the 6-yard box or they got in the box, they got forward, nothing really happened. The crosses they're putting in, the balls they're putting into the box resulted to nothing. Wilfred Bonney, absolutely useless. Once he gets the ball, he's like, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know where the goal is. When he was at Swansea, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I just need to jump in because of this Man City bashing. How much? No. Calm down. How much did Wayne Rooney cost? Let's work this out. 30 million. Who else was in Man United's front line in the game? Mata. How much did he cost?
35.
And who else was in the front line?
Yeah, 30 something.
And
still nowhere near 49 and 55.
No. Come on, who else?
That's it.
And it was Lingard, wasn't it?
Well, Lingard.
He came on, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. So who was the central attacking midfielder?
It kept swapping. It was Martial stayed out on the left, which I'm still not clued up as to why Louis van Gaal has decided to put him out on the left randomly.
It seems that the young strikers get put on the wing because it helps them develop footballing, like the footballing side of things. It's a load of crap.
It is. I mean, yes, he needs to learn the football side of things. He needs to learn the English game. But if you want him to learn the English game, which is physical, stick him in the centre where all the physicality is going to be an issue. Then he'll learn quicker. Don't stick him out on the wing where he could potentially, not in this game because there wasn't much happening in the game, but he could come up against a quick right back. He's quick, yes, but he's not going to learn any physicality there.
I mean, what we would say is he's obviously touted as the next Henry, and he's obviously started and played a lot from the left, but the game's a lot different now. Did Henry used to chase the right back all the way back? No. Maybe sometimes, but not all the time. The game is different now. The wingers aren't inside forwards like Henry was. The wingers are expected to get back, expected to track, expected to defend. So I completely agree he should be played up front. And as you say, City have paid a lot of money, however much I turn it on United spending as well. Both teams were shocking, to be fair.
Both teams were shocking. Both teams have spent a lot of money. But even from Man United supporter point of view, Otamendi, who actually got, Sky Sports man of the match in the game, he was really good. If it wasn't for him in that game, I think Man United possibly could have got a goal. Potentially, if they were able to finish. 76 touches, winning most of his duels. He was there all the time. That last line of defence, which for Man United has been spoiling for a lot this season. Otamendi was there all the time. Fantastic game for him.
And because the Premier League talk has gone on a lot longer than expected, we're going to jump straight to the Major League Soccer, the MLS. Now, why are we jumping to the MLS? Now, I can assume Colin will be smiling as I'm doing this intro talk here, because New York Red Bulls won something over the weekend, did they, Colin?
Yes, A little bit of silverware came through. So the New York Red Bulls are the 2015 Supporters Shield winners in MLS. So brilliant. So they've scored a team high most goals for a season at 62. Tied a club record for 18 wins in a season, and they beat FC Dallas on goal differential for the Supporters Shield at 60 points on the season. So Sunday was decision day in MLS. So both the Eastern Conference and Western Conference regular seasons wound up. So the playoffs are now set. Unfortunately, it's going to be a little late for all the European followers of the show, but if you're in the U.S., starting tomorrow night and Thursday night are the knockout rounds of the playoffs, and there are some absolutely fantastic matches that are coming up. So this is a one-shot winner go home. Wednesday, the early game is the DC United versus New England Revolution, and the late game are the Seattle Sounders and LA Galaxy. Thursday is a Canadian battle with the Montreal Impact going against the Toronto FC, and then the late game is the Portland Timbers and Sporting Kansas City. So there are some fantastic games right there to watch. If you haven't watched MLS yet and you want to see sort of MLS at its finest, this is it.
I think it's definitely going to be exciting. I mean, it's just in there. So for our European fans, New York Red Bulls go straight into the semi-finals, is it?
Correct. So the top two seeds in each conference go direct to the conference semi-finals, which is a two-leg playoff. So the Red Bulls will face the lowest seed of DC, New England, Montreal, or Toronto, with the Columbus Crew facing the highest seed of those crews remaining teams. And then in the West, Vancouver will face the highest seed of Seattle, LA, Portland, and Sporting Kansas City, with FC Dallas facing the lowest seed of those.
Fantastic. I really do hope that New York Red Bulls can get through. I mean, we're going to definitely talk a lot more about it next week.
Oh yes,
because it's going to be getting a lot closer to when is the final?
December 6th is MLS Cup. So
Okay.
Wednesday and Thursday are the knockouts. Then Sunday is leg 1 of the conference semifinals. Then November 8th is leg 2. And then there's a week off. And then the 21st and the 28th of November are the 2 legs for the conference finals.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that's it for tonight's show. So I want to thank everybody who's listened on iTunes, SoundCloud and YouTube. Remember, we are back next week. We are back on Thursday night for the weekly Football Manager show. Check it all out. And from the three of us, we will see you next time.